Yes, how are you, Bobby? Yeah, say I broke Dad's custom neon sign because I'm a little turd and I like chewing on everything. Okay, we got to talk about the SpaceX IPO, the recent market sell-off, and Fed Chair Wash. Wash.
Today's big question, why do some Americans say wash instead of wash?
Before we talk about what caused the largest market sell-off in over a year, I do just want to give a small shout out to the free, 100% free, we're not even talking about stuff you got to pay for, free 99, and still better than 99% of everything you're going to read online, everything you're going to read on FinTwit, all these idiots. I wrote about the $1 trillion problem. I wrote about the rising rate hike projections and about the SpaceX IPO in detail, and even told readers before the puke that I've sized down. I'm getting forced out of swings. I've gone cash heavy, and I do not think VIX is properly pricing in the risk over the next week. So I've added call positions on volatility to capture a sudden move in the market. This report came out at 12:30 a.m. The next day, the market has largest sell. Later that day, rather, because literally that came out the morning of. Later that day, the market has the largest puke we've seen in over a year. Is it a coincidence? Go subscribe and you'll find out I make call outs like this all the time. It's not just me though. We do happen to have the most brilliant team you've ever seen over at NBT, and all our performance is tracked live and transparently. And these people with much larger followings or with all these credentials, they just can't compete with our performance. We're just better. So they can say whatever they want, but they don't act as transparently as we do. You know, the stuff I give away for free is the stuff that they make you pay for. So imagine what I offer for the paid stuff. Huh? How about that? Anyways, I had my moment. Dobelltrading.com. Go learn more. But is this the end of the AI bubble? Is SpaceX IPO going to be a complete disaster that crashes the market? Let me tell you what. I like SpaceX as a company. Their S1 is a disaster, right? S1 makes no sense. You know, their TAM, the total addressable market, it all mostly comes down to the AI and how much enterprise value they think they can offer. It's all insane, right? Especially when you hear all the theories. If you actually talk to all the tech experts and what they think about all the AI models that basically live off token utilization, it doesn't seem like that's actually sustainable. You know, photonics and stuff like that. Just got off the phone with the photonics co-founder today, and he's telling me all this stuff's going to zero in the next 3 to 4 years because this space is moving so fast. Is he right? I don't know for sure, but I do know that, yeah, that IPO is definitely overvalued. Is that what caused the market sell today? Is the market sell-off today justified? Should you be afraid? Let's talk about it. First of all, I'm not going to go super in-depth into interest rates, actually, other than to say that the rate hike projections went from 55.7% to 70% by December, meaning the market thinks there's a 70% chance that we hike up interest rate by December. And our short-term analysis, I do see rates going a bit higher. But I think that, even though we have this 40-year breakout, my technical analysis says that this then becomes the true decision point. Right around 5%, that's where we can either continue the breakdown to the downside or we'll get the further explosion higher, at which point we need to talking about an actual major regime change. You can have whatever opinions you want. At the end of the day, our opinion, my opinion with markets is price tells me. I'm not really it's not my profession to argue with markets. It's my profession to lay out all the data and react to what happens, okay? And since I've laid out all the data, I can confidently execute quickly when new information is presented because I already have all the theses played out, right? So we do have this puking for the markets. Does it look like the bull market's done? Absolutely not. And not in the slightest. We can see we're just back testing our bullish support. It does look like we're going to get a continuation, especially after a move like this, the SpaceX IPO. We've already seen that the SPY The S&P will not have an inclusion of SpaceX. They're going to make them go through the normal process. We still might have an inclusion on the NASDAQ. What does that mean? It means you have to sell off other companies to make room for the inclusion. And it also brings in those passive flows into the IPO. Now, the IPO still has 5 days to process to see if retail and institutions can fill the demand that they're going to have on their IPO date. This is coming up fast. At the same time that we'll hear from Warsh for the first time. That's such an odd name. Every time I say it, it like trips me up. But at the same time, we're going to hear from Warsh, right? And hear his comments. Powell had a really great job of keeping the markets calm. We've never heard this guy talk before in that new position. Obviously, we hear governors talk all the time, right? Fed governors constantly make comments, markets react to them. But now what he says carries a different weight to it, right? And this guy's kind of all over the place, At first, it was that he's a Trump puppet. He's going to do whatever Trump says. Now it's, he's a Fed hawk. He's going to hike rates higher. And, some people are still in the camp of he knows rates got to come down. Rates for sure got to come down. Again, I'm not in the business of knowing the future. I'm not a fortune teller. I'm in the business of laying out all the facts and reacting as fast as possible. So I think that, coming down to 732, let's actually just transition this to the SPX for an easier viewing here. I will say here, we were kind of projecting a back test here before we make the final visit to 8,000 because I don't think this market's done whatsoever. I mean, in fact, if we come to the weekly here, this looks perfectly healthy. It was a nice reset. The market was extremely overbought, and we've come back to the bullish. We're still bullish. We're actually bullish all the way to 7,200. We could puke another 2.5%, and the market would still be very much in a bullish regime, right? This would still be a secular bull market. So, I'm looking to buy the dip here eventually on these, but we need to get out of the way for now, So 7,200 is probably your next major resistance. I'd look for that. Maybe 7,100. There's this very strong area of consolidation. I wouldn't expect something so deep to test the previous highs. I think we've kind of gone too far. If we come back to those previous highs, I would already be kind of shaking in my boots. I wouldn't want to see something like that. Although it's oftentimes, you see this structure all the time where market kind of sets a major high, consolidates, breaks through it, then back tests it before it gets launched, right? I don't think we're going to get that full move just because this looks actually like it's either a first wave or it's actually about to begin a third wave where everyone's going to pile in. The same way they all panicked out, they're all going to panic back in, and that could easily, and people who have not been participating in this rally to date, by the way, because there really has not been a lot of strong participation in this. This rally's been really hated. But a lot of those people who've been waiting for a nice dip to buy all the way since March, or April when they didn't believe it. And then when it got up here, we felt like they were, it's too high up. I got to get a pullback. And the market never gave them a substantial pullback. Those people are itching at the bit to get back in this market if it starts to show some strength again, especially since they've now gone half the year with very minimal performance. And if we look at institutional performance, it is abysmal. They're doing horribly as they try to avoid the AI names because they don't believe in AI. And let me say, we are working on, I got a full development team that are working with AI every single day. I keep close touch with major developers at other companies as well. Fully bought in, full believer, AI works. Everyone who doesn't believe it, stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. This stuff is so amazing, so incredible, even for the day-to-day, even for the data, how I know how to react to things and how I respond so quickly to the market and how I've improved my performance as a trader. A lot of that comes down to the utility of AI and building it to everything we do here at MBT. So if you're not a believer, you're going to become one eventually. Does that mean that the market won't have some sort of collapse? Absolutely not. Does that mean that I think that collapse is here? No way. No way. Eventually, this is a bubble. Eventually, it will pop. Eventually, we'll have another secular bear market. Is that now? I see no signs of that. In fact, market looks really healthy. SpaceX IPO. is a whole different story. When we talk about SpaceX, you're talking about a company that has four major components, right? You have X, the company with social media platform. You have XAI, the AI software, and then you have the space company. The space company is beautiful, wonderful. I think that's an amazing business. The social media platform, I really want to see a few quarters and reports to see how that actually continues to grow over the next few quarters before I really give an opinion on it. But the AI part of that company is what I think is the most flimsy. The total addressable market and the projections this company has, and the fact that I think our analysts have SpaceX fairly valued at about 400 billion. I have it at about 500 billion for my personal. Although our analysts are very good, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I would never say that. But we have a varied amount of opinions. All those opinions are in line with the fact that this thing is trading at well over its evaluation it should. IPO is not a buy, in my opinion. I'd rather buy this IPO when everyone thinks that SpaceX is a turd and you don't want to buy it. And, let's say Grok has a blow up and then the XAI's valuation craters and it hurts the company. Okay, then I'll be a buyer. And because I like the space as a whole. ASTS companies like that, I don't know. I could take it or I could leave it. I'd rather be in photonics and AI names and, playing with the lasers or have exposure to the cloud companies. But this other stuff, take it or leave it. I'm not very interested. I think I'd rather get back in crypto. But SpaceX as a whole is something I think that deserves a home in my portfolio. But I need to get closer to that fair valuation. I just can't buy it at where it's at. Maybe that comes after a market collapse, but my recommendation is do not touch, do not disturb me until it actually gets down, until I see the puke. And I think we'll get the puke shortly after the IPO. Maybe there's just too many. There's let's say you get the listing, you have all these passive flows that have to pour into the company. The reality is that you don't have the normal lockup on insiders for that company. And so there's going to be all these outflows that are fighting the inflows, which makes it uncertain, which means, it's all going to come down to execution on what does that price action look like after the listing. Keep in mind, upon the listing, you still have this huge offer you have to climb over and get filled, and there's going to be all these order flows. If you've been trading us for a while, we've seen IPOs fail, and we've seen them cause ripple effects in the market, right? So some of the selling could be, people might have looked at the selling, oh my gosh, interest rates are going up, we're going to hear from Warsh soon, we got this crazy IPO coming now, lots of people are bearish on it. You get the confluence of those factors rather than just one thing that leads to this market panic. Not to mention, retail participation in the market is an all-time high, and they panic sell everything, right? They don't have hands to hold anything. Most of these people, you give them a quiz on what they own, they can't tell you. They don't know. They know they're making money off of it, but that's why, they don't know when to sell or when to buy or what's a fair price, or they don't know any of that. So they see the market dump like this and they panic out, just like they'll panic back in, and that's what's going to send us to new highs, right? It's so simple if you don't overcomplicate it. But is this a moment where I would panic? Yeah, I think you should be kind of hands off in the immediate. But if you're looking to get long again in this market, watch those major key levels, man. It's so not complex. All right. It's so not complex. Watch those key levels where prices had a reaction in the past. We're about to test one right here around 7,300. If that fails, I would look for 7,200. If that fails, I'd look for 7,100, right? So simple. You could try small as you get close to these key levels. You could try small exposure. You get stopped out. Okay, wait for it to finish its pullback. Or you cannot do any of that. You could wait for this to turn, as is my common practice. I like to buy when strength returns, that's when I'll put on size. So, that's not necessarily true. I do like to nibble on dips to see if I can time the bottom perfectly and then size up when I get the confirmation. But hey, there's multiple ways to skin a cat. And there's multiple ways to look stupid on X, because every time I get on there, I get triggered and I make a video like this and I go on a big rant. If you're looking for more details on the SpaceX IPO than what I've gone over here, then make sure you check this out over here. If we're talking about specific companies, I mean, there's so many great companies. Just kidding. Go subscribe to NBT through the website. Check us out, or just follow the newsletter. Sometimes I give away our Sunday reports for free, where we run down the major things we're looking for the week ahead, or even further out than that, and my favorite companies, favorite trade ideas for the week. It's all given to members every single Sunday. Other than that, God bless, guys. I'll see you in the next free video.